Let's make sure it's recording. It is recording. Okay, you are here ready for Parks and Recreation themed look at one nonprofit organization's search for a new CRM. And this kind of search is happening every day. And folks are either feeling really confident or not confident at all when it comes time to actually pick a new database. There's a lot riding on this stuff, right? So today we are going to go into what happened with Christina, a client of mine, as she went through her search process. And we thought, why not start with Tom and Donna? Treat yourself. Everybody wants the perfect system, the best CRM, the most modern and usable fundraising database. But we don't always have the money. We don't always really know what we want and what our priorities are. And so with no further ado, Christina, let's get this thing rolling.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. Boop. Oh man, is this not going to work? This is called roll with it. There we go. All right. So as you can see, and you can move our little faces around too. So if we're rolling over a meme or a GIF or any important content, just drag our faces around or minimize us. As you can see, I'm the lady on the left, Maureen Wallbeoff. I'm a nonprofit digital strategist and technology coach. I've worked with in 4 nonprofit organizations for about 17 years. And I help people who are nonprofit accidental techies, like most of us, kind of make sense out of the systems that they're using, solve some unsolvable problems, and actually get all that technology playing nice with each other and doing the things that you need it to do with hopefully not a lot of bumps. I'm based in Sandwich, Massachusetts, which is a little village on Cape Cod. And I will kick it over to Christina, my colleague, for an intro. Christina, why don't you say hi and tell us about yourself?
Well, hi everyone. Thanks for being here. My name is Christina Schnorr. I'm the Director of Digital Fundraising at Anera, and I've been working in the nonprofit sector here in the DC area for over 10 years. And as you can see in my spare time in the summer, I love to be at the beach.
Awesome. We got to get you up here at some point. So here's our agenda. We are going to treat ourselves to an hour, hopefully, chock full of a use case. And the use case is Christina and Anera, her organization. We looked at, people who have signed up and hopefully people who are watching today. There's lots of folks whose names we know, and we're so glad that you're here. And if you're new to either me or the work that Anera does, we encourage you to learn more about it when the webinar is over. So here's our agenda today. We tried to do this ourselves, and Christina is no slouch when it comes to nonprofit tech. Thought that she was going to be able to do this alone, but it got really hard really quickly. So we'll find out why. We'll do a deep dive on the software demo process, which is where a lot of people start. And we'll get into how she made a decision and her thoughts and feelings about that. And then we'll definitely have time for open Q&A where you can chat some questions to us. Christina, let's talk a little bit about your organization. It does such great work in the world.
Sure. So Anera is short for American Near East Refugee Aid, and we're a humanitarian aid organization helping hope find a way in Palestine, Lebanon, and Jordan. We've been providing emergency relief and sustainable health, education, and economic development programs to refugees for over 50 years.
Amazing. And how many people do you have in DC who are kind of supporting the work that's happening in the world?
So we have about 20 people here in our headquarters in DC.
And how many people are on the digital fundraising team at Anera, Christina?
That would be me.
Yeah, small and mighty team. Might sound familiar to most of you who are watching today. They got to do a lot with not a lot of manpower, which is why the technology and the data is just so critical to get that right. Okay, Little Andy Dwyer moment here. They tried to find a new CRM by themselves long before Christina and I crossed paths last year, right? So, you know, even equipped, even with Google, even having experience working in a number of different systems, you can be really smart and this still can be hard. Is that sort of how you felt, Christina, as you started to look around?
Absolutely. I think it was just very overwhelming too, because these days there are so many options now as opposed to maybe 10 years ago when there was only a few go-to systems. So, I mean, I was really, when I started here in Anera about 2 years ago, the system that we currently have, I felt like it was a little clunky and not so great, and I was like, maybe later I'll get used to it, but it just never happened. And it is very clunky and not user-friendly, and the rest of the staff here felt the same way. The reporting module was pretty hard to use. We'd always have to get outside help from our third-party IT vendor to set up reports for that. And then, like I said, overall, it's just not very user-friendly. Like the visuals interface was it's just not great.
So you had a list
Yeah,
of things. Yeah. And what I love about what you did before we met is you actually stopped and asked yourselves this question. And most of the time people jump right in to the search instead of spending a minute or, you know, a couple weeks doing some internal reflection. So you really found out that this was not going to be a fix situation.
Right. Yeah. And everyone else who had been here before me too was just feeling very frustrated at this point too. And they were like, yes, happy to move on. Yeah. So, I mean, we were also having issues with third-party apps. Data was not transferring correctly to the CRM. Yeah. People would have to go in and update it manually. So that would take time. And as I mentioned, we don't have an in-house IT department or staff members. So a lot of troubleshooting had to be done on our own, spending way too much time on the phone with support or emailing back and forth. And as you can probably guess, we all wear many hats here. So it's just was taking up way too much of our time that we could be doing actual work.
So everybody was kind of in agreement. You didn't have anybody who, you know, expressed a lot of love for the system that was in place. So that probably made it easier.
Absolutely, yes.
There's safety in numbers, as they say. So once you figured out, we got to get out of here, you know, it's nobody's idea of a good time to do a database conversion. You know, it sounds like you started to look around a little bit, right?
I did. Yes, so I started researching CRMs on my own. I was familiar with a few. I had heard about some from attending conferences and just from an initial search on Google. And then I did participate in a few demos and started to feel like Craig after a while with a few vendors. And so I was like, okay, I have a good feel for these things, but I'm still not sure if it's the right fit for us. So then in 2018, when I attended the nonprofit technology conference, I went to a session on moving to a new CRM, and I learned a lot more about what it takes and how much time it can eat up. And so I decided, I was like, nope, I got to find someone to help me with this. There's no way I can do this and the rest of my job at the same time.
And when people hit this moment, it usually does one of two things. You either say, I know I'm going to make the best decision I can, you know, and I'm going to go down that road, or you move into, it's not the right time to move. And you just kind of go back to living with it for a little while. Did you think about that at all? Like, oh, we might need to really sign another 3-year contract with our vendor.
Yeah, I think we also just wanted to give ourselves time to do the search and also allow for overlap for when we did make that switch into the new database. So we definitely signed on again in 2018. And then from there, we're like, okay, so we got to figure out before the next time this contract is up what we're going to do.
Was it the fact that there were so many options out there? Was it the fact that, I know for you, you wanted to take other departmental requirements into consideration. Where did that overwhelm really come from for you?
I think because I knew what I needed, but I wasn't sure what all of my colleagues were going to be needing. And also for an organization our size, because, we don't have like a million constituents, in there, even though we are over 50 years old. It's like, do we need something that's super powerful or something a little more simple and easy to use for us internally? Would that be better? Would that be a better fit? Because, it's just, there's so many, and down the road, you want to be able to have the options to do different things, maybe add some other modules on. So thinking about that too, and not having to,
I know what I need today, but I don't know what I'm going to need tomorrow. That's right. So that's when our paths did cross, and you figured, I need a little bit of help here. How'd that conversation go with your boss?
She was definitely on board. We're all aware that we do many things, and we have to, figure out what our priorities are and how much we can handle on a daily basis. So we didn't necessarily have a budget set in stone because it wasn't something we were thinking about at the time of, budgeting for the fiscal year.
Right.
But we knew we wanted to keep it reasonable and not go overboard. And this is my first time doing this type of project, so I really had no idea how much it would cost. And I really wanted to find someone or an agency or a vendor that wouldn't be like, oh, you should go with this one because this is what we specialize in. I was like, no, I just want a neutral party to help us do all of this and have some experience in picking.
Yeah, and I think that's the cost. I think people think this is going to be a $50,000 project, and it's not, or it doesn't have to be, and most of the time is not. And also, you don't want to pay somebody to do stuff that you could do internally or have the capacity to. So there's a lot of different ways that I support teams and folks like you based on what you want to do. But let's talk about why this is so hard. Oh, Jerry. Oh, geez. Jerry, Gary, Terry, Gergich, Gengrich. It's a big risky thing. Usually there's a high level of visibility. Certainly your organization's president and CEO was present in some of the discovery work and had opinions about what he wanted functionality-wise. So everybody was paying attention in the organization. We did this during end of year fundraising season, or we started it. So, how much of your brain do you actually have to work on something as important as this? And there's no formal process to follow. That's a big part of why I do what I do, because people just sort of make a decision. I've got to move. I hate what I have, or it's too expensive, or it's too big, or it's too small, whatever the problem is. And then they just leap right into social media requests like, hey, who really likes Platform Banana, without getting your full requirements. So there's no step-by-step process. I've got these 4 phases that I have most folks follow. The product landscape is continually evolving. I learn about new systems almost every week, and I'm supposed to really know what's out there and what might be a good fit. It's too easy to focus only on functionality. I need a system that can generate a custom video thank you message, making it up, or I need a moves management system. And they only think about that part of requirements, not, doing the whole discovery and figuring out what you need. And even though you might have been exposed to lots of products, you aren't formally trained in tech, which means you've got a lot of blind spots. There's a lot of things that you might not think to ask. And so we turn this hopefully from a nightmare, Christina, into something that I think people felt like they understood and they knew what was going to happen next, and they felt pretty confident that we had some guardrails up that were going to prevent anybody from making a real, horrible decision. And this is what this process kind of looks like, what I did with Christina and her team. We figured out who had to be part of this selection process. Christina, we wound up doing some real thinking together about who was present and kind of who was a decision maker and who was an observer and kind of an opinion sharer. Do you remember how many people we had on your selection team?
Let's see, we had about maybe 12 or so.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like the majority of the office, really.
The poor 8 people, or the lucky 8 people who weren't really part of this. And then we spent about maybe 4 or 5 weeks on discovery. Yeah. You want to say a little bit about what happened during the discovery work? Do you remember?
Yeah, well, it was really great because we kind of formed ourselves into groups, and you came in person to do some interviews really with everyone to find out what they need out of the system and how they'll be using it. So that was very helpful.
Yeah, we also looked at your program, like your overall, like how big was your house file? How many emails are you sending? How many direct response and online campaigns are you doing, to get kind of a sense of your real use of a system? And then we looked at functionality requirements, right? We had all those checklists that people had to fill out, like what's a must-have and what's a I don't care if it has. Did you guys find that it was easy to come to agreement on those things? Did people mostly go with the flow? Or were there some maybe more challenging conversations that had to happen to make agreements?
I think it was pretty easy. We all knew that we wanted to get basically the same things plus some out of our new system, and just being able to do things faster and easier too. And then we were also bringing in a brand new group who our grants team and foundations, they weren't even using anything, probably Excel sheets. It's
exactly.
Say that in 2019, but they had thought about using our old system, but it was just like, no, don't do it. Just wait.
Hold on. We're going to try to get something that's a better fit.
Right.
So once we knew kind of what you're doing now and where your pain points were and how your data is or is not flowing around your system, I made some recommendations, right? Like here's maybe 4 or 5 different systems that could work for you. And then it was off to the races in the demo cycle, and we're going to go into that in more depth in a second. Evaluating the proposals to make sure that you know what you're really buying, and then the beloved decision-making process, which is a little different in every organization. So I guess, you could do this on your own. People do it on their own all the time. That's happening right now during this webinar. But if you feel like you're swirling or you're not sure that you have your arms around everything, this is one of my favorite images. I love Ron's face. I love that woman. She pops up, that local Pawnee resident. And I also love that Donna never looks up. It's just like, no, Donna Meagle does not respond. So let's talk about the demo cycle, because this took most of our time. This really was time and labor intensive for everybody. We saw 4 different products in different formations, some single source systems, a unified platform that has a CRM and does all the online stuff too. Some open source systems that can do a lot of database stuff natively but need other apps to get plugged in to do some of the digital stuff. We met with 6 different vendors. We had at least, I counted 9 different demo sessions. And it took about 3 months, right, for us to run through all of this. Did it feel longer? Did it feel like we took the right amount of time?
I think so. I think also those, we say 9 separate demo sessions. A lot of them were follow-ups. So that kind of took a little extra time.
Yep.
And people won't necessarily need to do that when they're going through this, but for us, we just really wanted to feel very sure and comfortable with what we were considering.
Exactamundo. So let's talk about your top tips or takeaways or lessons learned.
Sure. So on-site demos are a must, I would say. It's easier to interact with the vendors if they come in person, if possible, if they can. I mean, the people that we were working with were more than willing to. They're used to doing this. They prefer it as well. And it also cuts out on the awkwardness you usually have during conference calls, as we all know, and any like extra technical issues. Then you won't have to interrupt people as they're speaking. You can comfortably and smoothly ask questions during pauses. So that was very helpful and made us feel comfortable and kind of get to know the vendors a little more and their product.
And vice versa. I'm sure, even though, many of us don't love getting on a plane and needing to go have a meeting someplace far away, they got a chance to really get to know your team, your physical location, how your group dynamics sort of works around decision making and stuff. So for the vendors out there, if anybody's watching this, try to go on site if you can. I know it can be a drag. So that was number one, on-site demos. Number two, so we had 2 demo rounds, right? Which meant some people didn't make it from round 1 to round 2. How did you feel about having to let folks go and say, we're not going to move you forward?
Not bad. I mean, really, that's the whole point of doing all of this, is to figure out what's going to work well with your needs. So obviously don't be afraid to tell them the bad news. Like, don't prolong it. Like, they're used to this. They know that they're up against others. So, somebody has to get let go. So, and then just be upfront and honest and explain why their product doesn't necessarily work for your organization. And that's helpful for them to know as well. You can offer a quick follow-up call to discuss further if they would like. And that way that they can all both entities can feel comfortable with the decision that's been made.
Yeah, it's about being professional. I mean, don't ghost. That's the worst thing you could possibly do to anybody, is just like, so-and-so came into your office, gave you a demo, worked really hard. Not everybody makes it to the finalist round. That's the point, right? Of looking at more and kind of winnowing it down. There's no perfect system out there. So please, nonprofit person who's watching this, send an email, patch through a quick call, and just let folks know that you have made a decision and that they're not moving to the next round, and a little bit about why. They hear it. Everybody gets told no at one time or another. So do the right thing and be transparent about it. The other thing that I think is important here is kind of leveling the playing field. So everyone who participated in this project, all the software vendors, knew who else we were talking to and what you were looking at. And so I think that any time that you can really be transparent about what's going on, it just helps. There's no point in being super cagey about most things in a project like this. It doesn't really buy you much. So, okay, perdvert. I wasn't sure if I was going to use that term or not, but you had to bring some new vendors into round 2 for a particular platform that is set up by implementation partners, right? And so, what was that like? Oh, we have to start all over again. How did you guys deal with that?
It wasn't too bad. I mean, because there are many implementation partners out there, it wasn't too difficult. But it did take some extra time, and I think that added to our 3-month, process. Which is fine. I mean, you want to do diligence, So we ended up cutting it down to 2, but with extra in a way. So
asterisk, yeah.
Yes, yeah. So it did take some extra coordinating for more demos, but it's totally worth it. Just take the time to do these demos, because it's your chance to see the system in its entirety before you make your decision. It gives you a deeper understanding for the project. Any follow-up answers you might have can be answered. If you need to see something again, if you can't remember, if you need just like a deeper dive into any area, they'll be happy to show it to you. Like, don't be afraid to ask more questions, easy questions, dumb questions. Like, they've heard it all. And it just made us feel more prepared to make a final decision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the other point to make here has to do with the fact that for many products, many CRM products, sometimes the only team that can implement that is the software vendor's implementation team, but not always. So there are usually a whole host of other agencies or individuals who actually set up these systems that are a separate business or a separate company from the software vendor themselves. So if you're going for a platform, Pineapple, and you really love the software, but you're not so sure about the implementation piece, ask the vendor, are there other folks who set things up? Sometimes it just has to do with timing. The software vendor's implementation team may have a really long queue, and you may need to get going like now. And so having some options about who to work with to set up the system, as long as they're trained and they really know the system, can help you pick a product and an implementation team. Means you're signing more contracts and stuff like that, but it may actually be a better fit in some cases, especially from a timing perspective. That was not the case for you. So, you went over a couple of these other demo tips a second ago, Christina, but anything in particular here that you really want to hit home for folks about the demo process?
Sure. I think it's important to think about what you are wanting to get out of this new CRM that you aren't getting out of your current one. Mm-hmm. So what are the biggest pain points? What is making you dislike it? And anything else, like any new features are you looking for? Trying to think of any stuff off the top of my head, but like texting mobile, I don't know, that sort of thing.
Your supporters or something like that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Or even just using it yourself mobile on your phone or anything like that. Like how easy is it to use when you're traveling?
Right.
Definitely come prepared with questions that are specific to your needs. I would ask all of your colleagues who are attending these demos to think about what they want, how they want to be using the system, and what they want to be getting out of it. Because, like, as I said before, like, I knew what I wanted, but I wasn't able to ask questions for everyone else.
Right.
Let's see. And then, of course, don't be afraid to do a deeper dive beyond the first demo. Like, we ended up splitting ourselves up into specific groups, and then did those extra demos within those groups, not as like a whole group with all 15 people. That way I felt more comfortable with the people who are also going to be using the system, that they were seeing all the features that were going to be the ones that they were going to be using. And then, of course, talk to lots of references.
We'll talk about references in a minute, because we've got some pointers on that too. I think here, two things to call out. The first is who's on that team. We talked about that at the beginning. You may have somebody like roll in just for a little bit of a demo, and we did that with your finance person, right? They needed to, nothing integrated with your accounting software, but it was really important that your finance folks felt confident that the new system could generate the right report, and give them the information they needed to be able to post payments. So that, I think, was really critical. And the other thing is you do have to have a level of trust in your teammates. Some of those deep dives from the grants team, for example, they were using spreadsheets, several spreadsheets. So it wasn't just one, they had a bunch of them, all shared on a shared drive in your system. And they went and saw their deep dive demo alone. You didn't feel like you had to go with them and make sure that they asked the right questions. So there was really a level of empowerment here that you made sure to give the rest of the folks on the team.
Yes, absolutely.
Nobody wants to be, guided that firmly. And so here's a final thought on the demo cycle. You know, this is this moment, like it's at the bottom of the decision-making J curve where you're like, I'm going to learn all the, oh no, I've learned too much. Now I don't know if I have enough information to make the decision or what. So say a little bit about this gift, because you plopped this one into the presentation.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I always want to know all the things. So, you know, it was just really seeing enough to feel comfortable and knowing that this is like, it's a yes or a no for you. I mean, for everyone, you know, so we would go around the room and say yes or no after each one. But yeah, I think it's just seeing enough that will help you make your decision.
Excellent.
You need to see every single little tiny corner of it, but seeing the major areas that you know you'll be working in like every single day.
Right, right. It's like test driving a car. You aren't going to check every single thing on that car before you make a decision to buy it. There's important things to know, and then there's stuff that you just have to let go. We've actually got our first question here from Jesse, who asks, can you speak to holding, this is a great question, can you speak to holding vendors accountable for requested features? Do you do that at the demo stage or after you've picked? Like, hey, you say your system does this, you know, and maybe it's not quite ready to be used yet. There were a couple of things that we saw in some demos where we saw screenshots of functionality that was going to show up. So can you say a little bit about, you know, a little bit of trust factor, but also a little bit of, you know, hey, software vendor, when I use X, this really has to work that way. Like you showed me this in a demo. Is that out of the box or is that customized? Say a little bit about that for Jesse.
Sure. I would definitely tell the vendors what you're looking for, and just give them kind of a heads up about how maybe you're using your current system and what sort of features you wish you had. And wish you could be using at this time, and ask them, like, you know, if you want to see out of the box, ask them to show you out of the box. Or if you want to see something that's customized, ask them to bring that to the demo or include that in the demo. That way everyone will have a complete understanding about what you're seeing right then and there, because a lot of times it's not like that at all. It's just, here it is, like all the bells and whistles in the demo. And then you also just have to remember to ask them, like, what am I looking at here?
Yeah, because, so I can put myself in multiple positions here on this issue. The first is, if I'm a software vendor, I want to show you the best stuff I have. The really powerful POW donation forms, awesome action alerts, you know, like the best user interface or report, easy report data visualization thing, right? I want to do that. I want to put my best foot forward, show you what the potential is. But it's really easy, and I see this happen all of the time, for folks to see that donation form. This is my screen, so I see that donation form, and then, you know, they have their product set up and their system implemented, and the donation form that they've bought or that they've paid to have set up is something that's really simple and really out of the box, and they don't realize, it's a horrible realization moment in an implementation when you realize that that donation form that you told everybody they were going to get in your organization was actually a custom designed and built donation form that cost $8,000, you know, to design and build. So asking, is this out of the box? How customized is this? Like, write down those two questions and be sure to ask them during a demo cycle. Because using the test driving a car analogy again, they're not going to give you a car that's like the super base model to go test drive. They're going to give you the heated steering wheel and the sunroof and all of that, because they're hoping that that's really the package that you're going to purchase. And software is very much the same. You know, you could get the base model, or you could get a mid-range, or you could get the super, super primo expensive custom high-end one, all in the same product. So know what you need and know what it's going to take to actually get that thing that you saw on the screen in the demo. So, Christina spent a lot of time on this. I don't want to give you the impression that, she just sort of showed up when I said, hey, show up at this demo, because she did put so much time and work into this. But I did a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, scheduling those demos, which is always fun. Like, is everybody free in this 90-minute block? Demos should be a 90-minute first demo. 2 hours if you absolutely have to, no longer than 90 minutes. Yeah? Yeah.
You will use it.
Yeah, you will use it. And you won't remember everything anyway, so 90 minutes is a good first pass. Dealing with the technology and the logistics for those demos, right? Like, people are coming on site. What room are you going to meet in? How are they going to hook up to your HDMI projector and your screen? Everybody was on site except for me, so I had to figure out how I was going to be able to see everything too. And we did use Zoom, which is a great platform. If you don't have it in your organization, I highly recommend it. One thing that's really important to talk about here are those debrief meetings. After that 90-minute demo, everybody says their goodbyes and thank yous, and that software vendor goes and leaves. And I gave everybody a few-minute break to just clear your head or check email, whatever. And then we all regrouped for a tight 30 minutes. And I asked everybody these 4 questions. What did you see that you liked? And I documented that. What did you see that left you feeling cold? You didn't like it. What questions do you have? You never just see it and are like yes or no. You always need to learn more, especially in that first demo cycle. So what questions did everybody have? And then based on what they saw in the demo, did that product make it to the finalist round or not? And usually everybody was on the same page. Some people were more super enthusiastic about products than others. But it's really important to do that at the end of every demo. If you wait till the next day, you'll forget. If you wait until you've seen everything, you're not going to remember what product did what thing and whether you liked it or not. All that administrivia, right? Following up with the vendors, making sure that they had the questions and got the answers back, all of that stuff. Even reviewing contracts, and we can talk about that in a minute. And what I like to call translating and normalizing. Translating is the jargon, right? Somebody says, oh, we've got an open API, so you can do anything with any form. Okay, what does that really mean to somebody who doesn't know what API means? So taking the jargon out of it, making sure that the vendor is actually answering the questions that you're asking if you don't know the right words to ask them, and kind of normalizing, right? Like, these demos often included like a few minutes on the company, software company, their history, their culture, their team. I think at the first demo, people were like, we wanted to jump right into the product. And it was better for me to say, that's actually what they should be doing when they introduce you. So people got more used to how that was going to go. Do you think you could do this again on your own, Christina, now that you've followed all this and you've got all the worksheets and you know what we did?
I'm sure I could, but the question is, do I want to?
And that leads us to the worst, like John Ralphio. Love him.
I love this guy.
The worst stuff, right? This is, and I don't want to say like, give me all the grunt work because I'm the paid help, but I understand how to do this. I could do it really efficiently and effectively, and it's a good partnership. It let you guys pay attention to the right stuff in your search, and the magic elf at night, make sure that the questions were sent or meetings were scheduled and stuff like that.
I think it was just helpful to have you there to keep us on track, because I know how we are here, and we often get off track.
Oh, that's only you. No, that's only you guys.
Some things. So, it's just because we just have so much going on. And if I were in a larger organization where maybe there were like a few hundred people, I'd probably try and do this on my own. But we're all trying to do, 12 different things.
Yeah, yeah, it's all
helpful.
got to fit. You can't really stop in the middle of it either. You sort of have to keep going, because then
Right.
there's a lot of regrouping and backtracking and why are we doing this anyway? I've changed my mind about what we need. And that leads us up to making the decision, which is kind of like reviewing proposals, checking references, seeing the last little things. Did you guys have to kind of psych yourselves up like Leslie here in her Bobby Newport debate, to actually take the plunge to make a decision?
Yeah, I mean, I think once we receive the proposals, that's kind of like okay, now I have to sit down with my glass of wine and read through all these things, because some of them are very detailed and have a lot of information in them, and it's not exactly entertaining. And so it's just a lot to read and absorb.
Yeah.
So this is probably my least favorite part of the process, but
though, yes,
got through it.
we did.
Yeah, I mean, it was very helpful to have kind of your guidance there to remind us what we should be looking for when we're reviewing the proposals. And then, what sort of things should be included in the proposals. Obviously cost, that's
Right.
a big thing. If you have a budget, tell the vendors ahead of time, and they can probably set a proposal up based on the amount of money that you're willing to spend. We, in our case, didn't really have one, so we were just kind of seeing what they were offering for how much, and then we decided we were going to kind of negotiate from there. I mean, we didn't really want it to be any more than we were already spending. So, I mean, we were keeping that in mind, but we didn't have like a set budget really in stone. Should we talk about the scoring now?
Yeah, let's talk about what you do once you ask the vendors, the finalists, okay, give me a proposal. It should include the cost of the product, usually 3 years, how much it's going to cost to set it up. This is where, if you're working with a different implementation partner, you might get a couple proposals for one option. And then support. It's really important to know, is there an option for paid support? How do I get in touch with your support team? Like, help me understand how you're going to make sure this is successful for me. And they come in all different flavors and all different formats and varieties. So yeah, we use the scoring tool. What do you have to say about that?
Well, it was extremely helpful, just because it helped. I mean, it was a sheet that you created, like an Excel sheet, and we both completed it, and it really helped me ensure that I was considering each and every criteria when making a decision on which system, looked like it would make it to the next round. So that was, because you can easily get stuck on one feature and you're like, oh yes, I want that, I want this system. But this helps you kind of have like a holistic view of everything. So that was super helpful.
Yeah, it takes the gut out of it. You may have really clicked with the vendor and the demo maybe went really smoothly and it meets your functionality requirements, but then it turns into just business again a little bit. And knowing that something is actually like it absolutely meets these requirements. I give it a 10 out of 10, or I give this a 3 in this area, lets you really break it down dispassionately, and say, oh, what? I really thought I loved that product, really like that vendor, but they scored lower on the proposal than another vendor did, which can be a little shocking if you're already ready to kind of sign with somebody. And then this apples with kittens final bullet has to do with the formats of these proposals. Got any words of wisdom other than sit down with some wine to go through these? Were you surprised by how different they were from each other?
Yeah, I was. I mean, because each vendor has their own style to do these things. So some were pretty light and others were super heavy. We did have to, ask for some follow-up and additional things, but, those vendors were happy to comply and they sent those out to us. So, yeah, I mean, it's, as I said, it's the not fun part, but, you got to do it.
Math. Ugh, yeah. So, we went through the proposals. We sort of had a couple of choices. at the bottom, you know, when cutting to the chase, you had two products that were really kind of nose to nose in a lot of important areas. And that's when it can be very tempting to like force me to show you everything all over again. And, you know, you've got some tips here. I do love Andy. You've got some tips here for, you know, where do you draw the line? Did you deal with anybody who was like, just, I want to see that once more? Did you do any managing internally of staff who really were being fixated on seeing things for the third or fourth time?
Not too much. I think those follow-up demos, like when we got into our smaller groups, and then when we had whittled it down to 2 vendors and had those follow-up demos, we all were feeling a lot more comfortable after completing those. And so that was fine. Nobody else was really needing anything too much else. But yeah, I mean, we were just really focusing on the main reasons why we were looking for a new CRM. You know, like what exactly is it that's making us hate this thing that we have right now?
Right.
I mean, it's just, it can be hard because, you know, do you fix it or do you move on? But, you know, it's, in our case, we definitely needed to move on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, don't be afraid to ask for those really specific examples of things. Like we were asking, you know, what does it look like on mobile? And, you know,
it's pretty cool on mobile in some cases too, for sure.
We travel a lot and people don't want to be taking laptops and things like that. So yeah, it's just like, just think of the small, like, and eventually, maybe not when you're seeing the first demos, you'll think of it, but later on down the road, you're like, oh, I want to see that thing with this vendor, and just ask them and they'll show it to you.
Yep. Yep.
And they should show it to you.
And they should. And there's no perfect system, right? So you're not going to love everything. You're gonna like a lot of it. You're gonna love some of it, and hopefully there's very little that you completely dislike. And, you know, no better way to kind of figure out, like, in a year, what might I be saying about my selection process than talking to references, people who already use the product. And, you know, the software vendor will give you references. Those are hand-picked people who have great relationships and who like the product, and that is really smart. Vendors should do that. But it's also good if you can to kind of, you know, ask in your networks. That might be the time to go in a Facebook group for nonprofits that you belong to, or a message board, to say, hey, who uses X? I'm getting ready to sign on the line. Anything that I should know? Bobby Newport. So you know, tell us a little bit about, you really came up with this list of questions, and tell us a little bit about what those conversations were like. How many people did you talk to?
I want to say I talked to about 2 to 3 for each system. Less some, I mean, 2 to 3 from the reference list that I was provided from the vendors, and then I also just kind of knew some people, like former colleagues and friends who have been using or used these systems that we were looking at. So, and it just so happened that I was going to the nonprofit technology conference like right before we were kind of getting down to making our decision. So I was really able to kind of like talk to everybody, talk to total strangers, you know. But I mean, it was super helpful for me because they'll be honest, and you know, that's what you want. You want that honest feedback. You know, ask them all of these questions that we have up here on the screen and more if you have any. You know, you really want to get that honest feedback from them and talk to as many people as you can. And then if you're not going to a conference, but if you are going to any other, like, you know, nonprofit networking event, happy hour, whatever, like, just bring it up there when you're talking about like what you do and like what you're working on. I mean, you'll be surprised.
Yeah, we're a very generous group, nonprofit folks. You know, we're more than willing to let people know what our thoughts are or what our experience was with a platform. So, you know, just take things with a grain of salt. I think in some cases, you know, if somebody is really feeling unhappy with a product or a vendor, it might be because they didn't follow a process and it really wasn't the right system for them, or their needs have changed, or their staff turned over and now they don't have somebody who knows how to do X, so everything feels harder. That's a really important point to make, that everybody's mileage is going to vary a little bit. So while you do want to listen, with both ears, if somebody's really sounds like they're disgruntled and unhappy, it may be that they just sort of, blindly picked by price, and it was not the right tool for them at all. So my favorite slide in the whole presentation. We've got about 10 minutes left.
But it's so true.
And we want to get to questions. So this is the split moment where you're like, we decided we are going with this product. How exciting. Oh no. And I want to ask you, were you both Leslie and Chris? Are you still Leslie and Chris? Because you're literally just starting your implementation now, right?
Yeah, no, I think we're all, well, I know I'm feeling like this. I can't speak for others. I haven't really asked, but I think we're all kind of like the Leslie right now. We're like, yes, let's do it. Like, we want to switch over. Let's go.
Yep.
I think we'll be more like Chris when we are actually getting kind of taking a deeper dive.
Field mapping is happening, for your
yeah, like we're just starting things now, and we're like, okay, let's do this.
Take yourself up, exactly. So You've got some tips for people too here that I'd love to hear a little bit more about. Time. This whole thing has to, like, the preparing for the move. All three of these bullets are time oriented. So say a little bit about this.
Well, first and foremost, give yourself and your organization enough time. Ensure that you have sufficient overlap with your new and old system, like many, well, not many, it depends, many months. I'm just going to say that. Take that with a grain of salt. So, for example, our system, our contract ends at the end of December this year. So we have more than enough time, but just think about that. And also you need to have enough overlap so that when you move your sustainers over, that was something that references told me. They were like, it was really fast. And like, we had to think about all these details and like turning off autoresponders and moving some people over who might be on like a super old system or something. Like, yeah, that's one thing you got to think about, is how you're going to handle your sustainers. And the vendors will help you with that too, because they've done it obviously many times and they can give you tips and tricks. And then do it during a quiet time. For most, it's in the summer. We're doing that now. It just kind of happened to be like happen this time, and that's great. And ensure that you can complete it, the implementation, well before calendar year end fundraising, which we all know is like a huge time to be doing fundraising. So I think we should be done by September, October, and that's fine with us. We don't start our end of year super early. So I'll be comfortable with that.
Don't switch in the middle of a campaign. Don't do it. It's terrible. And enough time and overlap. Really the reason to do that is in case your implementation takes longer. Let's say we'll use, I'm renting a house, right? And I'm moving into a new house. You don't want to still have 5 rooms to pack up and move like the day that your lease expires. You really need that cushion of being up and live and that comfortable zone. And I'd say like 3 to 4 weeks is plenty. If you can have more, that's fine. But just remember, you're paying for 2 systems. You're paying for the system you're moving into and the system that you're still using but are about to leave. So from a budgeting perspective, that's really, really critical. I think we have a couple questions. Let's get to the next slide here. Why don't you tell us your top takeaways here, Christina, from this whole process and project, and I'll start to get the questions ready for us.
Okay. And we definitely touched on this in the beginning, but asking yourselves if you should stay or go. I mean, you can, if you have a system that you're using and you're just frustrated with the way that it's functioning, you can look out there to the interwebs and see who can help you fix it. it's not always, you just have to really take a step back and see if that's something that you can do. In our case, we tried really hard to fix it, and it was not working, and we were just having difficulties with the integration from the third-party apps, and we just don't have the time or the manpower to do that here. And not having like database administrators, like an IT team, it's just, we couldn't do it. Other orgs, they could probably do that, but since we're just so small, it was not something we wanted to like try and fix and keep getting frustrated. Again, give yourself enough time. I can't, say that enough.
It's enough.
Yeah, it always takes longer than you think. Like for us, it took a few more weeks than we had anticipated, because we did want to see those follow-up demos, and your schedule and the vendor schedule doesn't always mesh well, so it might take a little longer to schedule those.
Right.
And then, of course, don't be afraid to ask a lot of questions. Just think about kind of like, even before you see the demos, like, what are you doing now that you want to do better? Or what are things down the road that you want to introduce maybe, and see if they can offer you that. That's just kind of like in a nutshell. I mean, there's so much more too.
You'll get Christina's email address at the end of this presentation.
Yeah, so, I'm happy.
Certainly happy. We're both happy to chat and answer questions about your particular situation, because they're all a little different. So let's get to our questions now.
Don't forget little Sebastian.
Little Sebastian, I know. I'm trying to get my slide to change. All right. Dang. Okay. So 2 questions for us right now, and I will work on my slide forwarding in a second. Jesse asks, how do you inform your donors or clients about your tech upgrade? Did you tell people? Are you thinking about telling people that you're going to move, Christina, or is it all going to happen under cover of darkness?
It's going to happen under cover, because we spoke with the vendors about this, and they said they can move, especially sustainers, because that's one group that you might need to tell, but they assured us that that's not something they can just slide them over into the new system. There might be some extra emails you need to send to a few individuals if they have maybe kind of like a funky monthly gift going on in your current records, but no, it's not necessary to alert people. It just confuses people and scares them, and so it's not necessary.
Great advice. And Syriac Joseph asks a question. Can you speak about how to warm up the new email service when migrating? And I love that term, like I got to warm up my new email tool. It's true that you're going to be changing email delivery systems when you move. It wasn't just the database. You're moving your digital functionality too. So, have you thought at all about, the first message that's going to come out, or if you're thinking that maybe this might go to spam because it's coming from a different service than the one that you've used before? Great question.
Yeah, that is really good. I mean, we haven't really gotten to that point yet, because I think we're still trying to focus on all of our data and like how we're going to move that over and which fields we'll be keeping and things like that. But off the top of my head, I'd probably start with welcome series, or at least one kind of autoresponder or welcome email from people signing up, because those need to keep going out. Absolutely. And they're not, fundraising emails. They're more kind of like alerts and maybe engagement.
Educational.
Depending on which, welcome series or welcome email it is. So I'd probably start with that. And I think that's pretty safe.
That's an awesome tip, and it's something we didn't talk about at all during this process. So I guess I'd go back and I'd add in those takeaways. Don't start with fundraising appeals, and ask your software vendor about that. Some of them pay a lot of attention, most of them pay a lot of attention to email deliverability, and they may have actually more follow-up advice than what Christina just said. We are at the top almost. And so what I'd say here is let's stay in touch. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming. Christina, thank you so much for doing this with me. This is always a blast. Here's Christina's contact information, my contact information, my social media channels. I answer questions and give advice live every Friday at 12:30 Eastern Time on my Facebook channel, The Accidental Techie with Maureen Wallbeoff. So bring your questions over there. Email one or both of us. Stay in touch. We'd love to be able to give you some context as you're starting your own search. And we're going to end it with a big thank you and the best gif of all, which is Ron under the influence of snake juice dancing his little heart out. So thank you, everybody. Christina, thank you again. And hopefully we'll see all of you soon. Everybody have a good rest of your day. Thanks so much. Bye, guys.
Bye.